What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be talking about X-Men 97. Its first season has come to a close. It's kind of weird to call it its first season when it is a continuation of an older show, but it technically is its own show. And you guys may remember I did a review for the first 3 episodes a few weeks back, or I guess a little couple months now at this point, when I got sent the first 3 episodes early by Disney. Thank you to the kind folks at Disney. And that video did atrociously. Nobody watched it. So I was going to do just a traditional review here on the channel where I just review the season by myself, break down everything, get into it. But my reviews for TV lately have not been doing the best, to be honest, and I've been putting a lot of work into them. So I decided today for X-Men 97, we're gonna have a chill, laid-back video. I have my buddy, the Big Rob Theory, joining me. We just watched the finale together. This is gonna be a spoiler review, but it won't be a play-by-play of everything that happened episode by episode, just us talking about our general thoughts on the season. If you guys watched my review for the first 3 episodes of the season, you'll know that I really loved it. I thought it was awesome. We're getting right back into the X-Men. It set up a lot of great things for what's to come. Now that the season has come to a close, I have some gripes, but there's so much about it that I love. But Rob, I don't think you've done a video on X-Men 97 yet. What are your feelings on this season now that it's come to a close?
I am pleasantly pleased. That sounds like kind of like redundant, but I mean, just being a little jokey. But in all seriousness, I really loved it. It has its issues just like anything else, but overall, we were talking about it during the episode, and we said, man, this has got to be one of the best Marvel shows right now, you know, and in general, because it was just so well done, and just so many Easter eggs to certain comics and to other shows from the 90s as well. It's like really, you know, it was just nice to see, and it's just very nostalgic as well, seeing the certain things that we did see that we'll get into later on.
Yeah, no, for sure. I loved this season. I thought it was amazing. It was able to continue that original storyline from the show that ran through the 90s. Of course, a beloved X-Men show with one of the most iconic theme tracks of all time. As I said in that last video, I would love to play it for you guys here in that video, but this would be demonetized immediately. So to avoid that, I don't want any copyright claims. You guys know the intro. It's incredible. It's one of the most famous TV intros of all time. Long before 97 was announced, it was always one of the most beloved. As kids, Robert and I grew up watching that, as well as the various other 90s animated Marvel shows. Some of them were kind of in the same universe, but they never really made too much mention of that. This show kind of solidifies a little bit of that, but things like the Incredible Hulk show or Spider-Man from the 90s, which I know we grew up watching a lot of. And then also as kids, we grew up watching X-Men Evolution, which was another fantastic X-Men show when we were kids. I would love to see that get the 97 treatment with like a newer iteration following that up.
That would be insane.
That'd be awesome. I can't see that happening anytime soon with the success of 97 right now, but that would be absolutely amazing. I love X-Men Evolution, and actually did a review for it here on the channel a few years back when I revisited the entire series. But here we are talking about 97 though. And so yeah, the base premise of this one, it starts off, Professor Xavier has died. The X-Men are trying to move on. We learned pretty quickly into the season that Magnus, of course, Eric Langshire, Magneto, has been given the role by Charles Xavier to take over the X-Men if he passed. So he does just that. And of course, there's a lot of butting heads, specifically between him and Cyclops, who thought he was going to be the leader of the X-Men now. Thought it was a really intriguing way to start things off. And then one of the most notable things is, of course, we're introduced to Jean Grey's clone. We are introduced to the fact that her clone has been the one that Cyclops has been with for a while. They have their child that they kind of have to send off. They introduce Cable in here. We get to see him come into the fold. And I don't know exactly who did the voice for Cable. I should have written it down before we did this, but we're doing this off the cuff today. Not as prepared as usual. But he sounded a lot like the Josh Brolin iteration of the character.
He sounds really good and really precise to that. I was like, is it in my head? I didn't say anything. I didn't mean to cut you, but like I was thinking about it the whole time. I'm like, is this actually Josh Brolin?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not, but
it's just he sounds like it.
You could tell he was going with that approach, and if it is, that's awesome. But yeah, you know, I thought that was a really great setup. The first 3 episodes, so they released the first 2 episodes on the first day, which is what everybody else saw. I got to see the first 3, so I knew that they were kind of teeing up Sinister, and I was really excited to see what they would do. And I'll be honest now, after having seen the whole season, I think Sinister was pretty underutilized. I think he was a threat that was there that kind of really never did anything. We ultimately end up learning that he had he was a puppet, so to speak, with the puppet master being Bastion, the big bad of the season. I have some gripes around the villains of this show and the way that they were introduced or underutilized. But when it comes down to the nostalgia, the music, the voice acting, the fact that they were able to bring back a lot of the main voice cast for characters like Rogue or Beast and many others, as well as bringing in new voice cast, of course, to play characters where maybe some of those actors have retired from acting or have passed away since the filming or the recording of the 90s show. But yeah, we'll just start off really quickly with favorite things of this season. Robert, what was your favorite part of this show, or what was the element that you enjoyed watching about it the most?
I think what I would say would be my favorite, which is tough, it would be, I guess, the time travel element, which is obviously in a lot of other things we got time travel, it's done a certain way, but I just love the X-Men. I love the X-Men, I love mutants, and I love the storyline. I mean, as we said, there's some things that are, there's some issues, and I have some similar issues, but also some different ones. A lot of it being some of the villains too, and how certain things were used. But I also did love how they brought in those villains, and I liked that they were teeing up something, but they didn't use it, and it sucks, but it's okay. But they brought in they brought in costumes in certain things from just certain comics, and it was just awesome to see the Easter eggs. There we go, the Easter eggs. It was just awesome to see several Easter eggs, not just in one episode, but throughout the entire series.
Yeah, no, for sure. The series as a whole is jam-packed with Easter eggs, cameos from characters. Recently, probably in like the last year and some change now, Rob and I have kind of become ginormous fans of the mobile game Snap, Marvel Snap. It's a card game, pretty quick games. Like, they only take a few minutes if you play the base game. They have like a mode where it can take a little bit longer, but the rounds go by really quickly. And they have such a large collection of characters that are available in this card game. And so it was awesome. A lot of them are X-Men characters, and so it was awesome to watch this and just see a lot of them that are just in the background, that characters that we play as often or use often in our decks for that game that were just appearing in the back. Characters I was always familiar with from the comic books and from previous iterations of the X-Men and stuff like that. But it was awesome to see some of these characters that, maybe are lesser known Marvel characters, but since they're so prevalent to me right now because I use them in the card game, it was awesome to see them in small areas. Characters like Armor, or characters like Leech, that you see for just brief moments in the show, and there's so many more, and not to mention all the various other cameos that you see over the course of this season. Things like Spider-Man we get to see from the 90s show. Morph at one point turns into Hulk from the 90s show in there as well. We can see Daredevil, Iron Man, Captain America, Cloak, Dagger. Like, there were so many Easter eggs, Omega Red, Enchantress. Like, there were so many various Marvel characters that make appearances here.
Silver Samurai.
Yeah, Silver Samurai. There were so many. Doctor Doom, Nimrod. I mean, they jam-packed this season with so many little cameos that if you are a fan of the bigger universe of Marvel, if you're a fan of the bigger X-Men lore, there were so many characters that they played with, which I thought was super cool. As a huge fan, that part of it just made everything feel lived in and feel like a world where things make sense. That's something that I think we're all kind of missing from the MCU today, where it's like we have all these various installments that tonally all feel differently, and there's these things that are happening on the earth that are impacting essentially the world, only for it to only be integral to a couple of characters. I think one of the most notable ones in the recent Marvel years was the Eternals, that literally ended with a huge freaking celestial being rising out of the earth that's still there essentially. And only one movie or show has kind of referenced it in a news article, but none of the other characters have really said anything about it. Whereas I think in reality, it would be a pretty big Avengers level kind of thing that they would be, having some sort of attention to. So, kind of what Rob said, I think this is without a doubt one of the best things Marvel has put out in a while. I don't want to say the best show they put out in the longest time, because Loki season 2 came out not that long ago, and that was a fantastic season. But it goes without saying that a lot of the Marvel movies and shows have not been hitting the same way they used to, and it's, there's not that camaraderie. That's another thing about Marvel stuff. What was made that whole lineup all the way up to Endgame so much fun was that camaraderie that everybody had about these movies, and these characters. And it's no doubt dwindled, and I think that X-Men 97 has done an incredible job of being that thing that you just go online and all your fellow Marvel fans are just excited to be watching it. Everybody's excited. It's nostalgic. It's very well animated as well, and I love the animation style because they maintain the look and feel of the OG show while also updating it enough to feel like
more modern show,
a modern version of what that was. They didn't change it because they easily could have made the animation substantially better, but they wanted to at least keep it where it looks like a show from the 90s, just with a little bit more of like a modernization.
I think that adds to the love to it for you, for me, for everybody too.
Right.
It's just that not only nostalgia from the Easter eggs and from everything, but just the way how it looks. Because as you said, it's got that tonal, like that more modern tone, but still keeping true to the original product, and that's just so much sweeter. Makes it so much sweeter.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, genuinely. Now, I wanted to touch real quickly. I think we both have like the same favorite episode, but I could be wrong. My personal favorite episode is the episode which is one of the most heartbreaking ones. The episode in Genosha, of course, a place where mutants can come and kind of live in peace. That place ends up getting bombed. And unfortunately, there's so much that happens in that episode. It's the episode that introduced Nightcrawler in this season. That we got to see that's where a lot of these characters we're mentioning that have these small, brief cameos are able to appear. We get to see so many that we haven't even mentioned. Mutants and Marvel characters that are in that sequence. We get to kind of just see mutants living in peace as well, amidst all this, all for it to end in this tragic ending. It's also the introduction of Cable in this season as well. There was so much going on narratively. I thought it was the best structured narratively, and it ends with the sadness that Gambit is killed alongside thousands of other mutants, including a lot of those that we mentioned
in a flash.
Yeah, it just immediately, and the episode just kind of ends, and it was impactful. It was serious. It was incredibly well voice acted as well. The animation was stunning. The music was absolutely fantastic. And I would say that my least favorite episode was episode 4, which is the one where it felt so out of place when you look at the whole season. It's the one where Jubilee and Sunspot are pulled into a video game and they're fighting what's his name? Yeah, Mr. Mojo. I liked seeing his character. He's always been a fun character in the comics and stuff, but it just felt like you watch those first 3 episodes, they are awesome. They're setting up Mr. Sinister. You got, the Jean Grey clone thing going on. Magneto's taking over the X-Men, all this crazy shit. And the next episode's like, Jubilee and Sunspot are in a video game. And I was like,
okay.
Yeah, so what about you? Favorite episode, least favorite episode?
My favorite episode, it's tough. As you started talking about it, and I was like, damn, dude. That was a really good episode. That was a heart-wrenching episode, man. Honestly, because I definitely did. I didn't shed any tears, but I did tear.
And I think that's episode 5, if I'm not mistaken. So it's literally the first 3 episodes with all that set up, then this weak episode with Jubilee and Sunspot that I feel most people were not crazy about. And then the next episode is like Genosha. It's like, holy shit, talk about this like fucking change right there.
I remember people, a lot of our friends too, were like, yeah, that was a weak episode. And
right.
Well, it's like they heard it and they were like, you guys have no idea.
Right,
and then that episode happened.
They needed to give us a second to go, hee hee ho ho, the X-Men are back, before they destroyed everything that we know dear to our hearts.
Yeah, which is still happening, or just happened just now, because damn.
Yeah, we're going to get into that.
Oh, man, wow. Anyway, jeez. So my favorite, man, honestly, I would have to say maybe episode 9 would be my favorite one, just because you just see it pan to maybe this one that we just watched, because it just pans to everybody and there's so many cameos in it. But for story purposes, probably the Genosha one, because it just like really is just a event altering, but like world altering event. Like it's terrible what happens.
Right.
So
it sets the stakes.
Yeah, it sets the stakes, and it also just wakes everybody up, and it's like, oh my god, this is real. Gambit just got murked. Thousands of other mutants got murked in less than 5 minutes. In less than 5 minutes, and not even just in our time. I'm talking in their time too. In less than 5 minutes, they all got decimated.
Right. And it incites the motivations for so many of the characters. Like everybody is motivated to do something, good or bad. After this, Rogue goes ballistic, Magneto goes ballistic,
Capsule, like,
right?
What?
And you have all these other mutants that are trying to kind of keep a cap on it, or keep a lid on it, so to speak. In terms of like trying to still maintain that human mutant kind of relationship that they want,
which I can respect.
But then even in that, you still have them kind of like fuck the humans,
yeah,
I know this is what Professor Xavier wants, but we just literally watched like thousands of our brethren just be killed. But anyway, sorry, continue.
No, you're good. No, it's we're getting into it now, because it's like the specific episodes. But no, and then saying that Magneto was right, it's like, yeah, he was. Like, I hate to say it, but yeah, he was.
All right.
Oh my god. My least favorite episode. Yeah, or the one where Oh man, is it Storm? It's not that she loses her powers, but there's
Right, the one with her and
Forge.
And Forge, yeah.
There's one where they're just like,
so that's a thing that for me. So I'm gonna tag on to that by saying that my biggest gripe with this season is that sometimes things move too quickly. I almost think it would have benefited from having more episodes, genuinely, because while I loved things, the villain element of the show for me was a little bit weak. Bastion, I feel, just kind of appeared as the big bad at a certain point. He's the puppet master.
OG big bad.
Yeah. Multiple episodes in, though, pretty far in, because you think Sinister's the big bad. That's who they kind of set up. And you almost think that Magneto's going to be the big bad. And he is at a certain point.
Yeah, he is.
But there's too many villains in the mix that ultimately I don't feel get enough time to shine. Sinister was essentially wasted for me. He's there, but he's kind of just treated as kind of like the guy who thinks he's in charge, so ultimately learn that he's not in charge. We've seen that time and time again, but Sinister's such a cool character in the comics and stuff, and various other iterations that we've seen him in. So I was hoping they did more with him, and even with this final episode, they kind of just made him a joke, a joke villain, so to speak.
Especially
Bastion,
with Morph, sorry,
right? Especially how Morph kind of spoke to him at the end there, like. With Bastion, he's the big bad, and he definitely has an imposing threat, and is gonna ruin everything near the end. So he's definitely the best villain of the series as a whole. But I just feel like between him, Magneto was the most interesting one. Like I loved that conflict between his character, and he was going back and forth. He tried to honor Charles's thing, but then he was also like, fuck what Charles wants, because we just watched all of our people get killed, and then he's got the relationship element with Rogue and Gambit and all that. I thought was really interesting. But where the show kind of lost it for me was like in these little things that they committed to that they quickly resolved. Storm losing her powers. Like that was a big moment. I saw that. I think that happens in the 3rd episode. So I saw that before everybody saw it a few weeks prior, and I was like, holy shit. Like that. I was sitting on that waiting for episode 4. Like this is going to be a big change for the X-Men. Only for her to have like a one episode that was kind of like slow with I think it's the same episode. I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, it's the same episode
with Mojo stuff.
With the Mojo stuff. They were cutting between the two of them.
That's what it was, because nothing even really happened, and she was just like fighting these demons, or like I think that was the next one. But
it continues on to the next one.
Okay, but it wasn't that one too. See, it's.
Yeah. It just didn't. It didn't
feel like it meant to be there.
Yeah, like it felt like she got her powers back too easily, so to speak. I enjoy that relationship between her and Forge. I think Forge is an interesting character, but I think based on what the first 3 episodes set up, it was just such a like. It just felt bland. And again, once things start popping off with Genosha, and you have Charles, we see Charles is on this other planet and he's actually alive and he's coming back, and he lands back on Earth. And he's like, to me, my X-Men, like I'm like, oh yeah, this is all beautiful. Why did we detour to this whole thing with Jubilee and Sunspot? Why did we have to do this whole thing where Storm lost her powers? It just
like a Vision Quest. That's like basically what it kind of was.
Right.
Like a Vision Quest with Forge and Storm.
And it felt so like quickly resolved that it begged the question of why. Another thing too that I don't think they do so much with, but I ultimately wish they had kind of fleshed out a little bit more, was the Jubilee. I'm not the Jubilee. I'm sorry. The Jean Grey and her and her clone element. Like, it's a part of the story, but I feel like it never got enough focus to really be like. And again, this goes back to the Sinister thing. They lead up to the fact that that's going to be a big part of the story with Mr. Sinister, only for them to not really
use it, like
do much with it. Yeah,
reference it every now and then. Like even up until the end, I was like, okay, well maybe we'll get some payoff with that. Nope, it's just. They just reference it. That's it. Like
right.
They just say something about it, and like,
yeah, here and there. Like they'll bring it in, and like kind of how that affects the relationships with Cyclops and with Cable and stuff.
Which yes, that's great. Woohoo. But like, what? Come on, we need more. There was like no payoff with that. I would have much preferred to see Sinister be the ultimate big bad in this.
Same. That intrigued me a lot more than Bastion coming in and having like this big what we've seen a million times before, Sentinels fighting X-Men. Like that seemed more interesting because the OG series had so much of that Sentinel stuff. But speaking on the OG series and how that kind of ties in here, I loved the stuff. While I didn't love that Jubilee and Sunspot episode, I loved that there was a lot of correlations and kind of like flipping it on its head for things that were very similar to what Jubilee experienced in that first season, especially when they go back to the mall. Like I thought that was a nice callback. Of course, the first episode of the original series, you got Jubilee going to the mall. That's where she's rescued by Gambit and the rest of the X-Men when the Sentinels show up, and so so she was able to do the same thing now for Sunspot. I thought that was really cool. I like the nice callbacks. There was a lot of little moments like that, and then the musical score is absolutely phenomenal. I just realized we're going for 20 minutes already, so this is pretty long.
20 minutes?
Yeah, I know. Sorry. I can't believe we've been going for this long. But if you guys have been watching this long, thank you. But we'll come to a close now in a moment. Ultimately, you know what our favorite episodes were, our least favorite episodes. We've just been rambling about things we loved. filled with cameos. Any final words you have on this season, my friend?
Just the fact that we mentioned like the comics and stuff earlier. It's just like they bringing in stuff from like the Uncanny X-Men and like the what is it, Fatal Attractions crossover or something like that. I'm pretty well versed with a lot of things, but when it comes to Marvel comics, I haven't read. I've read a lot, but I haven't read a lot. That I've realized like there's so much. There's so much. So DC, Marvel, everything. There's so much. But there's stuff that I noticed that I was like, oh my god, I know what that is, like without having to see anything, and it's just like that's so awesome, man. That they could bring in so many different things that anybody who's even seen anything from anywhere related to X-Men, you will know, know, and it's just the fan service, the way how they wrote it, the vision behind it, it's amazing. Sorry that we've been going for so long. It's just that, as you can see, we got excited once we really started talking about it. It's just so it was beautiful.
It was a good season, man. I think it's a strong start to bringing back a beloved franchise, or the beloved series in particular. Of course, the X-Men as a whole is a beloved franchise, but it goes without saying, some of the movies didn't work for everybody. Some of the spin-offs for the movies didn't work for everybody. We're all clamoring for them to finally appear in the MCU proper. We got Deadpool and Wolverine right around the corner. So to have this right now is awesome. And really quickly, just before we end this, just to touch on how it ended, all of our heroes, or at least our main heroes, are all sent off to various times. And specifically, we see that Scott and Jean are way off in the future, where they have now come in contact with their son, a younger iteration of Cable. And of course, the rest of the gang is in Egypt. As soon as we saw Egypt, I looked at Rob. I was like, "Apocalypse again?"
What?
And
before.
Yes, we were introduced to a young Ensaba Noor, only for us to jump in the post-credit scene to the present-day Genosha and see that Ensaba Noor is there as well. So seems like it's gonna get crazy, and as Doctor Who says, very timey-wimey kind of crazy shit. So yeah, overall, I love the show. Obviously, we had our gripes here that we bitched about, but I think
wish we got Onslaught.
Yeah, that would have been cool. I think they teased him.
They did. They definitely did.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they teased him in this show. But either way, curious to see what they do moving forward. Really, really love the show. Obviously, we had some gripes, but if you can't tell, it's all coming from a place of passion for us. We love this stuff, and it's nostalgia. It's our childhood, man. It's man. It's amazing. We went to MegaCon this past year. I ended on this real quick. We went to MegaCon and we got to go to the panel for the X-Men original 90s show.
Yes,
and they had the cast on stage. And afterwards, the actress who played Jean Grey came off stage. My mom was crazy because she's from, or crazy about her, I should say. Because my mom's not crazy, but my mom was crazy about her because she's in a show my mom loves called The Good Witch. So my mom stopped her to talk to her about that, and I mentioned, my son grew up watching, the X-Men show as a kid. And she looked at me, she goes, "You don't look old enough to have been watching my show." She goes, "How old are you?" I go, 30. She goes, "All right, that makes sense."
She was such a sweetheart and so goofy. Like, it was just nice. We were just standing there, we're looking at each other like, she's just right here talking to us like she's just she didn't care, here. Like she's not just this person that we look up to. Like, what the hell?
Right.
It was nice to just see somebody of that caliber just be right there with the people, just talking to them.
Yeah, she was super laid back, and yeah, man, it's exciting. I'm excited for season 2. They left it on a cliffhanger.
Seriously, a big one.
With honestly minimal, like this last episode had no conclusion, but was so satisfying at the same time. It had conclusion to some degree, but like it left things open-ended. So anyway, guys, almost 30 minutes on this video, unedited. I'm gonna edit this up, and hopefully it's not this long. Right. A big thanks to you guys for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. The Big Rob Theories links is down below in the description box. Go give them some love, and we'll see you beautiful people in the next one. Bye-bye.
Salutations, and see you later.